So how you been? It's been a while. I know I came to your open house, which is super exciting.
Thank
Um,
you.
yeah, I love the space as we can see behind you there too.
Yeah, I love it. It's a good space.
It was a great vibe, and I was just super thrilled to be there. So, for people who don't know you, I mean, it's been,
Mhm.
gosh, it's been 2 years, a year and a half. It's been a while since we talked.
Yeah.
Introduce yourself to the people watching that maybe aren't aware you've been on the podcast twice.
Okay. Well, my name is Michelle Harris, and I own Unlock Your Destiny Life Coaching Center. I'm a life coach. I've been doing this for almost 10 years. I work with people that are very specific about specific changes in their lives. I help people overcome fear. I do business, life, transition, whatever comes up. I'm helping people step into their purpose and overcome their fears and design the life that they really want to. A lot of people have all these dreams inside. We have all this head chatter on what we want to do or what we could have or do or not, or all these things. But it doesn't happen because it doesn't get aligned with their exterior. So I help people go inside to their core to find out what is blocking them. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I like chatting with you, is because that's like a lot of work, a lot of a lot of work that people do on the planet is important, but that is super important, and I think somewhat overlooked. Do you
It's
see?
so overlooked. Yeah.
Like,
You know what I've noticed in 10 years of coaching, and then I went through all my illnesses. So there was a big interruption in a lot of my coaching, but I will say this is that people skip the part of being, what I've noticed.
they
you
gloss right
know
over it, don't they?
yeah, so to step into that purpose and being fearless and courageous, we have to do some hard work to be. And so when you do that work and then you have. And I noticed in 10 years too, of the people I've coached, the difference between the ones that do and the ones that just don't. It has nothing to do with background, education, finances, titles next to their name, because we all know leadership has nothing to do with position. We're all called to lead. The difference between the people that do and don't, the people that do just do.
They just want it more,
Yeah.
don't they?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah. I mean, it's that, are you willing to get up every day and push and struggle and fight, even though you may not see results,
Yeah.
not everyone wants to do that. We're kind of an
No.
instant gratification as a general
Yeah.
rule of society.
Yeah.
Are you seeing more people wanting to go down that road of purpose in the last, let's say, 5 years, as things are getting more weird?
Yes, I definitely do. I mean, my business is based on doing hard things well. I help people do hard things well, right? And I think people are hungering and they're thirsting after something. They've been searching their whole life, and now the world is changing and they feel out of control. They can't just, it's not as, black and white as it used to be, if I can say that.
Well, and that's what it seems like. I mean, I know for me, that what's going on in the world, and not just in the last year or two, but in the last handful of years,
Yeah.
it's getting weirder, and it's kind of like, like purifying. If I was a piece of steel, it's removing the impurities and making me harder, like more
Yeah.
focused, more. Are you
Yeah.
seeing that with people? They're just like going all in. You might as well go all in if the world is, doing
Yeah.
what it's doing.
Yes, I do. Because I think people too, are coming to the edge of like, they're not getting transformation.
Yeah.
If they're not getting it, now they're realizing it's up to them to do this work, so I totally see it. And it's exciting because that example that you just used, I'm very faith-based, right? And so it is whatever your faith is. If you don't have a solid foundation, you cannot get transformation. So people are looking for all these things, you know what I mean? It's like that shiny object going and going. And where's the transformation? So I love in my practice how I'm committed. Like, if you're here to do the work, you're going to get transformation.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I think is so great about you coaches, is you're working with people all the time. And,
Mhm.
and I know that, speaking with other coaches that are friends, I know that each client you get some more insight into how to help the next client even better.
Oh, it's huge. I mean, every client I've had, they're coaching me and they don't even know it. which is so beautiful. That's why I love what I do. Like when I found my purpose and stepped into it, which was when I'm in my 50s, but I was turned 40 when my life just kind of was like taking that inventory of myself. I never dreamed that I would be in the dream job, which I call, this is my playground. It's the hardest work anyone's ever going to do, and I'm going to have the most fun in it.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Well, I like this theme that is emerging about purpose, and I think that it is an opportune time to let's dive deeper into this, because let's, where do you start with someone who says, hey, I want to live my purpose. I want to have an awesome life.
Yeah.
Is there, and that might be a loaded question because I know everyone's individual, but do you have a go-to tool that you typically reach for to help them start that game? And we're talking about a person who has never lived their purpose, who's far from, start there with it, if less if you could.
Sometimes it's so basic. It's like fundamentals. I'll ask somebody, what are the 3 things you want to change about your life? And they'll give me the 3 things. And which is hard to do, because some people could sit here and go, gosh, I really don't even know. But most of the time people will come up with the 3 things that they really want to change. So if I can get that out of them, you can start from there and dig deeper. I think right now, in the way the times are now, people are, they get stuck. We have excuses for ourselves. So when people come up with the 3 things that they want to change, and I will say this, through a process of coaching, most of the time, it's a lot deeper than those first 3 things that they say. But it's a starting place, because I will challenge somebody in their blind spots. Well, why are you not living that way? And why do you not have those things? Or why aren't you in your purpose? Sometimes we just have to be asked some real curious questions and someone point out and illuminate our blind spots.
Yeah, I love that. Well, so when you say 3 things, are these typically 3 areas of life that they want to improve, or are they sometimes more specific than that? When these people...
Yeah, well, it can be all those things. So when someone comes in, this is how I start getting them to look at their life instead of being at the effects of it. Because we just wake up, get the job, live life, whatever's happening in our life. But when you start narrowing down the question, what is it that I really want? Or why am I not my purpose? I don't know what I want to do. Or I'm doing what I love, but there's another area of my life, something's missing. So just those things to get in deeper to what's showing up for them. Because a lot of times our lips, it doesn't match our doing.
Like a disconnect there, right? We think we're matching it, but we're out of alignment, right?
Yeah, like I had a client last week, here's an example, who had this huge aha moment. It was just like a basic thing. Sometimes when we're in our careers or whatever it is, and so this gal, she's in her job and she has to go and be out there prospecting and doing what she was doing. It's tough. There's certain businesses that are tough to do, and you get beat up and you get a lot of no's until you get your yes. And it was so simple when I said to her, but it wasn't, but how I said it became simple. When she was just like uptight and nervous and frustrated, and when you're prospecting, you're getting all these no's, you immediately think, oh, there's something wrong with me, or I'm not good enough, or it's me. But when I just rephrased it for her and told her, if you were knocking on everybody's door today, and some people spoke to you, some people invited you in, some people didn't answer the door, some were friendly, some weren't, some received you, some didn't. Do you know that however anybody answered their door today had absolutely nothing to do with you?
I love that. Did that light bulb moment go for her, right?
Like tears came out of her eyes. I mean, when the aha moment happens, you're just like, I get to do this for a living. That changed everything for her.
She had been internalizing, she'd been taking it too personally, and when meanwhile it's all about them, right?
It's all about them.
Yeah.
But how do we learn that skill? Almost like, that saying, like, let it roll off, because that's hard to do. I mean, it's hard for any of us to do, because we take a lot of things personal, or we have to process. We can't skip the process, right? But when you stay with that, because the habitual habit, and you become doing that morally, oh my gosh, it works. And I talk from my own story. Shoot, I was one of those person hiding behind the chair, not playing full out and playing small.
Me too. Yeah. Well, and I think that's what makes you a great coach, is because you've already walked that path and you know where to tell them, step here, don't step there. You see, the people that came in super high achievers, it's hard for them to come down to the level of the person that's like, struggling because they're like, I can't relate to you.
You can't, yeah, yeah.
I was born a rock star, you know?
Right, right. But see, that's people, right? The difference between like looking for what is success and significance.
So talk about that. What do you mean by that?
Well, I feel like everyone's looking for success and whatever people define what success is. It could be monetary, money, whatever. But true freedom comes with significance. So when you have peace in your circumstance, if your bank account's loaded or you're broke, you know, and I used to call myself broke, busted, and disgusted. So, but when you,
it's the trifecta, right? The triple whammy.
Right,
okay.
right. So, but when you find your significance, you know, the flow of everything just starts happening. There's nothing wrong with having big goals and big dreams and wanting things, but there's a difference between having significance is so much more powerful. The richness of that success. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And I've heard that, you know, put a different way, you know, where a person shouldn't chase success, but chase like greatness or developing themselves. And that almost becomes an activator. See, I'm seeing all these different themes coming up in the universe, and it's like everything's bubbling up to the surface. Yeah. The other way I think about that is this idea of like when you love and appreciate yourself and focus there, then things get tuned up. And it's I love that. And I think that's a hidden key. And I love the way you say it, the significance. So not focus on the success, but focus on being significant. Focus on developing your significance.
Yeah, it's powerful stuff because it's like, you know, there's this scripture, it's the saying of love your neighbor as you love yourself. A lot of people will skip, if you're not loving yourself and you haven't done the first personal development work, they don't even know how to go love their neighbor.
Right, right.
And people will misconstrue that into like self-centeredness. Well, yeah, there's some people that are self-absorbed. I'm not talking like that. I'm talking about how do we do the work to become our best so that we can go help other people.
Yeah.
That's
because our cup isn't full.
Yes. Yeah. And that's the being, right? That's the doing, the being and the doing, because we need to do that that we can,
It's almost counterintuitive though, isn't it? Because of course, and I fall into this trap all the time. Let's focus on the money or focus on the material things or focus out here. And there always seems to be that gap. Like it's like too big of a chasm to cross. Meanwhile, like you said, I'm not doing that pre-work that will bring that closer and draw it in. It's so interesting.
And it's powerful because people focus on those things, right? And that's where sometimes I have to bring people back and go, okay, take a deep breath, right? There's more power in the faith than the proof sometimes because we're skipping the faith part as ourselves of what we're the work and running out looking for this outcome that we just can't get to yet.
Yeah, we are a lot like little monkeys in the forest where their little monkey brain thinks, I just want this thing. Meanwhile, there's something we're missing there. That's why I think the work that you do is so valuable and necessary. It clicks for people.
Oh my gosh, I watch so many people's lives change. I'm like the kid in the candy store. Like it's so exciting for me, and especially in the times we're living. This is like a geyser time, you know, like a guy shooting up. Yeah. It's time. People jumping in or they're not. It's time to get transformation play and get fearless. And what a better time, as it seems like everything's getting darker, for our light to illuminate.
I see that too. I see it happening, and it's weird. It almost feels like you're like, should I feel blessed right now, even though there's horrendous suffering and pain? And you're like, it's a weird duality, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Because what I see is it's like compressing people, like we are talking about earlier. It's forcing people to either level up their game, and it's actually helping them, like pushing them to get in the flow, isn't it?
Yeah, it's time to pivot too. People are living in so much fear, and they're kind of holding back on what they're really called to do anyway.
Yeah.
And you know, we sometimes when we block everything and our fear is running us, we repel what really is a blessing to us.
Yeah, I've noticed this too. That's what I've kind of felt, you know, I've said to myself over and over in the last, year or so. I'm like, Mark, if the world's crashing, you might as well go all in and pull your ace out of your sleeve and play that card, because what do you got to lose?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. We're in especially the unprecedented times we're living in right now. I mean, the shaking of everything, you know, And what do we find in that? It doesn't mean that we're not being compassionate. And we were saying, so many people are struggling and suffering. I mean, we all are in a different way, right?
Right.
It hit us with the whole code. Everything's hit everybody in
We're
a
all
different
connected.
way.
Yeah, we're in this together.
We're in it together. But it's which ones are going to rise up? I mean, so the ship's sinking, you know what I mean? Who's going to rise
the
up?
old ship is sinking.
Yeah. And it's time to, come out new and rise up, but it's helping other people say, it's your time. Actually, it's time.
Well, and that's what I see too. One of the things that's been a huge inspiration for me on my journey is seeing other people stand up and speak their truth and rise up. Because if one courageous soul does it, it's like, well, I'll do it too. And the more people do it faster, it just happens at an exponential rate. And I'm seeing that happen more and more. And we're like inspiring one another.
Which is so powerful, because it's like, I have this saying, I'm gonna look at it. Leaders know the way, and they show the way, and they go the way, right? So that's that one voice, because leaders doesn't have anything to do about position or titles, but it's the one, like what you're saying, it's time to lead, get courageous, and bring the others will start rising up and step into their leadership role.
Yeah. And one of the things that I'm noticing that is just super interesting is oftentimes the people that are in positions of leadership are kind of boxed in, and they can't really speak their voice to the way they want. They may feel it, but it's the ones that are maybe in the fray or that have been sitting on the sidelines that really don't have any, they don't have anything to lose. They're doing their work now. It's so interesting. It's almost like the tables have been turned a little bit, and it's like, okay, now, I keep thinking about that phrase, and the meek shall inherit the earth, or the meek shall inherit their spot in the earth. And it's like, go time.
Yeah. And the ordinary are called to do the extraordinary.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah. It's that so time.
Awesome. It is. So let's, so talking again about purpose and how you help a client who is coming there. I know you give us some awesome tools. So remind me again, we kind of got off on a great tangent.
Okay, sorry.
I lost my train of thought. But reconnect me. You ask them for 3 things that they want to change. And sometimes there's layers below that 3 things.
Yes.
What's next on that process typically?
I sell different programs. So one of the programs is the E factor. So you come in, and I will send, after I do a discovery session with someone, to find out, do they really want coaching? Are they really ready to do the work? Because not everybody that comes in here is ready. But when they do and they come in, then when they sign up, I do the assessment, which is an E factor. It shows how their energy is showing up, which is so beautiful, because it's not a personality test, which I love those. Those are great, but we're pretty much, my belief is our personalities are personalities. We can tweak some things as we grow and change, but our personality is kind of the blueprint of who we are. But your attitude, the attitude assessment, you can change. So I have my clients take an attitude assessment, and that shows us, we start from there. That really shows a tangible thing for them to look at how they show up in their world daily. And then it also shows how they show up when they're under stress. So it shows us, if you're showing up so much in a victim state or internal conflict, things that you haven't dealt with, you're still holding. Can you imagine if you could shift out of some of that, how you would show up different, the outcomes would be different? Yeah,
I can imagine. Yeah, because we're creating it, aren't we? In our thoughts and our beliefs, and
yes,
that's what makes
all
it so.
But we're taught so different, right? They don't teach this in school. So by the time we all grow up, we're habitually already taught on, I'm not good enough. I'm afraid. I'm scared. I can't do that. That's for somebody else. I don't have this. Or we're stuck in one interpretation, or we're assuming because we've been crushed negatively that it's going to show up again in our life. So we stay away from that. We're taught that, we're limited. We're not taught all the things that the truth of what we're supposed to be taught.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting that no matter, and I don't want to go down the victim road, but isn't it interesting that no matter how we're not taught or we're not told who and what we really are, and they try to cork that the cork always comes out eventually?
It does. It's going to show up. Yeah, it does.
You can't suppress the flowering of humans.
No.
You
No.
know, it's almost like we're homing pigeons, and we come back home to who we really are at some point, you
Yes.
know.
Yeah. And I believe that's why people are questioning. That's why coaches, and you're like what you said earlier, more people are rising up in their consciousness. They're like asking themselves questions.
Yeah, and we talked about this when I came out to your open house. There's going to be a mass flowering of human consciousness.
Yes.
Well, it's not going to be. It's happening now.
It's
In
happening.
the midst of the chaos, the storm.
Right.
It's only going to get more. I mean, it could be just the tip of the iceberg. There's going to be a huge amount of people who are waking up and wanting to know these things like you teach, these techniques, these understandings that you've been doing for, what, 10, 15 years now? I mean,
yeah.
invaluable. This is it's again, I hate saying this, as much suffering and chaos is happening, there's so much greatness and so much awesome things happening.
Oh my gosh, there is so, like, we're living in chaos, and I'm, I am
You're
more
thriving.
comfortable. I'm thriving, and I'm more comfortable in my own skin than I've ever been in my entire life.
I feel the exact same way, Michelle. It's an eerie feeling. It's
Isn't it
great, but it's uncomfortable. It feels a little, it doesn't feel right. Like, it's like, should I be feeling blessed right now?
Yeah. But the thing is I believe, yes, because we're called to go help other people and bring them with us. What I love about coaching and consciousness and growing and people growing in their faith, or whatever their thing is, their jobs or their pivoting or whatever they're doing, I call myself a level playing field. Not this, man. I'm coming right alongside to pull out the best, right? We're to complement each other. So that attitude showing up in life, everyone has different needs. So I get what you're saying, and I'm with you, because there's part of it's like, wow, this is kind of eerie, because we're like, okay, the world's running scared, and we're
it's
like,
just counterintuitive.
No.
Like, we've always been taught, and what it is, it's showing, at least it's showing me how much I'm separating from maybe the bigger collective, or the collective that I used to be in, which was, I'm going to be influenced by what's going on around me. And now I'm not down with that anymore. I'm like, I'm moving on. That's what it's showing me.
Well, and that's powerful, because that's even a great coaching tool right there. It's like, how do we do hard things well? My business is built on, because sometimes how do we do it well, even though the boat is sinking?
Yeah.
Right. Circumstances aren't changing, but I'm still great.
Exactly. I love that boat sinking analogy. I was talking with a friend the other day, and it feels like the boat is sinking, and a few people up there playing music and singing a song and like doing a little jig. Meanwhile, in the midst of this chaos, and expressing their their spirituality, their joy, really.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's important too, not to be like, get away from, we can be happy and joyful, but not ignore what's really going on. Still have the voice, right? Because it's easy, because a lot of people have shut it out. There's a difference. Some people are just living la, la, la and having a great all day, and they're ignoring what's going on, which I personally don't think that's right either. I think we have to have a voice.
Yeah, and have compassion and love for the people that are suffering, because if we look at it, if we were in their shoes now, we would want someone to reach a hand out to us and share some information or knowledge and stuff like that. You're absolutely right. We cannot not forget about the people that are in a suffering state right next to us when we're in a joyful state.
That's right. And there's a reason for that, right? And because we are taught, if you see a need and it crosses your path in your life and you can meet it, meet the need, right? It's not so about like someone's trying to take or this or that. Our humanness, see a need and you can meet it, meet it.
Because ironically, it fills both of our cups up, doesn't it?
Oh my gosh, it's in the giving. It's in the giving, in the serving. That's where the significance comes from. Success to me is that. It's in the giving and the serving, Yeah.
Well, it's such an interesting time right now, and it's like you said, we see so many things going on in the world. So what do you think about people finding their purpose? How does that translate to a benefit for the rest of us in society and us as a whole, when a person finds their purpose?
I think the ripple effect is phenomenal, because when you find what you're meant to be and do, the ripple effect of your inner circle or outer circle, oh my gosh, your people want what you have. They want what you have. And so it changes lives. It starts with families, right? It starts with one person, and two, and then three, and then a community. The word gets out. What's happening to that person? I want what they have. Because when we show up in our victim, I remember when I used to be, this person was like, how do I solve these problems? I had to ask everybody, like,
Yeah.
Running around,
Help me, huh?
help me. And then I got to go tell 25 people, right? And I had to do some really hard work. I remember a lot of tears and a lot of anger and insecurity. But when I realized that I'm okay and I changed, instead of being at the effects of all my life and letting it, define me, and now I can be at the cause of my life, that ripple effect, it's just endless. It's like the ocean, right? Which I know is kind of like
People saw it, and
Yeah.
it helped them fix their situations in
Yes.
some way. Absolutely.
Yeah. I remember being sick and dying and still showing
Yeah,
up.
that's right. You had an illness, didn't you? Yeah, it's
Yeah.
been a while since we've talked, but that's right.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
were, and as I recall your story now, you not only did you have, because sometimes I feel like a lot of my things are like historically looking back at my journey, like psychological or thinking errors, just, maybe not necessarily. There's always an element of a health thing going on, but if I recall, you were really down and out, weren't you?
Yeah, I was really down out. They sent me home to die. And so it was tough, but I made a conscious decision. I have faith. So ultimately, the only person that has my expiration date is God. However, when Western medicine sent me home to die, it was my faith and alternative medicine saved my life. So I see right now, which I feel was for such a time as we're in right now. And I've been through 2 major illnesses. And so I faced death's door twice. Now I'm looking at what we're living in right now. Holy smokes, I feel more prepared ever, because of what I went through.
That's so interesting about life. I see it too. You look back on your journey, and if you think about it in one frame of mind, you're like, oh, it's been just horrible and hard and challenging. And you look back and it's been this magical, blessed experience that gave you everything you need for this point in time, right?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, everything, there's a purpose to everything. And those of us who believe in that, it will be used for good.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens is we're not taught that, right? People are just like, oh, I'm down on my luck. My life sucks. I didn't get this. I haven't. All this, victim, internal conflict or unforgiveness, all these different things that just hurt our lives.
Yeah. Well, and also there's an aversion, and I certainly had it and sometimes still struggle with it. It's that we have an aversion to going in the hard places or doing that hard work or even feeling the uncomfortable feeling,
The uncomfortable.
And meanwhile, we that delays our growth and expansion. I remember when I had COVID earlier this year, at that point in time, I was taking whatever it was, ibuprofen, Tylenol, to try to keep my fever down. And a friend of mine, after I got well, she said, hey, well, fever's there for a reason, and you might want to let it run its course a little bit so that it burns out those bad players in me. And I was like, yeah, good point. And now I don't take as much. Now I don't go to that, but it was habitual to go to there if I have a headache or something. Now I do.
You take a pill.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the pill is suppressing our body, trying to tell us something.
Yes.
It's just so interesting, these light bulb moments, and they're right in front of us all along, but sometimes we can't see them.
Yeah. And it was suppressed for a long time too, right? And look at what they're doing. They're suppressing information. I mean, we can talk about common sense, in common sense, people have lost their common sense because of suppression and only listening to one voice.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing that's been very weird about it. There's a number of red flags that have happened for me the last year and a half. Yeah. And one of them was, why aren't we having open discussions? Why don't we have debates with a panel of doctors who are in different areas? Because here's the funny thing, all throughout human history, the more players and people that are involved, the better decision. When we have a really horrible decision, it's when we have less minds in the game.
That's right.
And what do we have now? Less minds.
Right. Yeah. I hope I can bring this up, but I thought it was interesting. Something just popped into my mind that today was about all the testing for COVID. And then they talked about how you could only get COVID once. So I thought to myself today, it popped in, I thought, well, if you can only get COVID once, why do they keep testing everybody? Why isn't there a card that says I've had COVID?
Yeah, that's a good point. And I've heard of people say, I don't know many, but I've heard some people say, I had COVID twice, for whatever that means. But you're right. There's been so many things that to a person who's looking and naturally skeptical of the government and medicine, they're like, it's kind of, I kind of like looking around at my friends going, are you seeing this? But
Yes.
some of them aren't seeing it.
They're
Like,
not
it's
seeing
so
it.
bizarre.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think that's the conscious level of being asleep almost, right? We've been lulled to sleep. And there's so much talk about critical thinking now, right? That's being brought back up. And it's interesting because this is really shaking. I feel like there's a sifting going on, right? And the ones that are rising up and awake, but the ones that are just still like almost robots, they've lost their common sense and their critical thinking. They're just listening for a voice.
Yeah.
For me, I've never been more, and I want to say this humbly, confident of like trusting my intuition more than ever.
I feel the exact same way, Michelle. In fact, I tell friends all the time, I say, this last year and a half I've never had a close relationship with my intuition before, ever. And that's kind of interesting for me because, even things unrelated to the current medical things going on, even things in my personal life, when I felt a strong message from my intuition and I follow it, despite what my head is sending me another signal, but my intuition is sending me a signal and I'm following the intuition, and it's very, like I said, I can't figure out the word. It's almost an eerie feeling, but it feels right. It feels good.
Yeah, it feels right. Yeah.
It's like coming into, I'm seeing that. And then again, that is another evidence of this is a blessing for people, what's happening here.
Yeah. Because they need to wake up and find out I really believe that we're being shook so much because it's time to get to their spirituality. You know what I mean? It's time to come to faith because we're running around in our own strength thinking we can do everything. And now, to me, there's so much good and evil going on. It's prevalent and it's
polarized.
Easy to,
it's either going to drive you in or you're going to be a drone out there for somebody's purpose, aren't you?
Yeah.
They're going to just direct you where they want you to go.
And you know what I call it? I call it man systems.
What do you mean by that?
And what I mean is that we follow what man created. And so, right, I believe, God is my creator. So we have these systems and rules and laws, but I think what's being sifted right now is there's some really, what's the word, maybe evil, I want to use, it's a hard word, evil plots of man, instead of like what's best for humanity.
Yeah.
Because just even like the comment of like dividing us vax and unvaxxed, if you were following a leader that truly was a leader, they would say, the science shows, here you need to get vaxxed, whatever anyone's belief is. And if you've already had COVID, you don't need it. And then some people have other issues that don't need. A leader would be bringing unity and give everybody a voice. When you shut everyone down and say there's one voice.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because that's one of the red flags that have happened to me too. All throughout history in our medical system, the number one thing they always say is, this treatment may not be right for you. Please check with your doctor. Now, all of a sudden, the narrative is, it's right for everybody from 1 year old to 99, go for it. Yeah. And I'm like, whoa, buddy. Come on, but some people are like, okay, sounds good to me.
Sounds good to me. Everybody get it. Yeah.
Everybody get it. It's interesting.
And, what was curious for me in that was like, I started thinking about, so all these doctors, they went to medical school. So do they all teach different things in medical school? Because if doctors are divided and epidemiologists are divided, this isn't about health and medical.
Good point. Good point. Yeah, because they'd be doing what they've learned. Yeah, it's interesting. It's like it is like a separation of people that are. And I don't want to categorize people, but the level of consciousness people are at. I always look at life on a continuum. I try not to look at it black and white because it's like we're all in this process, and some people. Because we've all been there coming out of anesthesia, and we don't want to come out of the anesthesia. It's pleasant.
Yeah.
And we're being slapped and, and they're waking and shaking us, and we're like, no, I don't want to do it. So I feel what that is. And I think, and I know I'm at that level. Every time I talk with someone like you or another friend and they get shaken and I go up a level, it's like we all are familiar with how it is to come out of anesthesia, because I think we're always coming out of it,
right,
to the next level.
And, once we grasp that we were all created unique with a gift, but so many people don't realize that, and they just follow what someone told them to do instead of looking within themselves. I don't know if that makes sense, but
it does. And where I tie that back in is with your statement on significance. Because for so long we've looked outward and said, okay, well, that movie star significant, that athlete's significant, but I'm not significant.
Yeah.
And you're right. We're coming into an age when everyone's going to have the opportunity to know their significance. Can you even imagine what the world's going to be like?
Yeah.
I mean, no longer we're pointing outward.
Right, which is so beautiful. And something I love about in my coaching too is, after working with people a couple months, you build such a tight relationship with them and trust and safety. It's when we're trying to walk out our purpose and we don't see ourselves the way that God sees us. But imagine seeing ourselves as God sees us.
Wow. Then that's really all we need, right?
Right.
I mean, coaching session done, right?
Yeah.
See you
Boom.
next lifetime, whatever.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
It's crazy, but that takes the work, right?
It does,
when I was talking even about the assessment, the work of finding out, oh my gosh, I've spent so much energy in not believing that, but if I put more energy into believing my faith or how God sees me, guess what happens? That becomes habitual and I show up different. And it's easier when crisis comes. Oh no, I go there instead of go, oh no, poor me, victim, internal conflict, the sky's falling, instead of nope. Because
I'm going to choose how I respond here.
I'm going to choose how I respond. And there's sometimes more power in the faith than the proof. We're always looking for proof. And sometimes we're not going to get it when our life's in chaos. So there's more power in the faith. When you're strong in your faith and you know how God sees you, well, then when you're in your circumstances, how do I do hard things well and have peace in my circumstance?
Yeah,
peace
exactly.
In the middle of the ship sinking, right?
Right. And you are right. And I don't mean to diminish the work of coaching, because as again, on my own journey, I've seen this happen.
No,
that's almost like the end. That's what we talked about there, where you say, hey, how does God see you? That's almost like the lake that you hike up to, a 10-day hike in, and you get to see this miraculous lake. But all along, if you just showed them the lake right off the bat, people might not even see it. It might not even register.
No.
Well, it wouldn't register, depending on where you're at on your journey, right?
Yeah, no,
And
it's in
so
the ditches.
You're walking them along that path and helping them navigate that. And then all of a sudden, here is the theme.
It's in the ditches, right? It's in the ditches. It's in the muck and the mire. And as our life is, that's where we start getting transformed. When we're faced with it. How many of us been faced with, oh my gosh, I have $5 in my checking account, or oh my gosh, they just give me a diagnosis, right? Or oh my gosh, I hate my life. A lot of people wake up and they go and they look in the mirror and they say, I don't even recognize myself anymore. What happened to my life? Those are my clients.
Yeah, well,
I want to help them.
Yeah, and like you said, in the toughest situations are also the best opportunity for growth too.
It's a huge opportunity. It's the best place to be, because you're so you're just ready. You've tried everything. And now it's time to get change. I call it this. We're all dysfunctional, right? So I don't use that word. I say, let's take functional people and get optimal. That's what I like to do. Take functional people and let's go to optimal, because we all have stuff. Because we were all taught who we are opposed to who we really are. We were all taught who we think we are opposed to who we really are. So through coaching, you get taught, you'll learn who you really are.
Yeah. What on that topic, because I think about this a lot, kids and what if what if there was a way to design the system? Do you ever, I know do you work primarily with adults, right? 100%?
No, I work with kids too. I have teenagers right now. Yeah, I do.
Okay, so because that's what I was going to ask you is, I often think, like, if an adult could live, hey, say 40 years or whatever, and then have their awakening, what if the awakening happened younger? In your experience, does that just give them more time and opportunity to share their gifts, or what do you?
Absolutely. I believe it. I believe if this was brought to the school system, and we're sending our kids off to school for 8 hours, and I have one in school, and it's
you see what they're being taught, right, and how they're being
Can you
Or-
imagine if personal development and self-esteem and you can do and be, and if that was all day long at school, 8 hours? Oh my gosh, their
it's
brain,
unfathomable.
yeah, it would change the whole trajectory of, it's almost like turning the news off, right?
Yeah, right. Well, and we know that kids have such malleable minds there. They're just sponges soaking it all in. And if they soaked in the good stuff, it's unimaginable what they would be, do, and have in life.
Yeah. And,
You know?
and growing up in this time, like kids right now, I mean, look at wear a mask, don't wear a mask, get a
Yeah.
shot, don't get a shot. The pressure these kids have, half divided, half, I mean, I can't imagine, I mean,
I can't
I know
either.
what we're going through at our age, but I have a 13-year-old.
Good point. Yeah, I mean, even and it really only the last, as the heat's being turned up on the stove, because I never
Yeah.
watched the news before and I never listened to politicians. I have two better things
Yeah.
to do, and I'm sure you're
Right.
like that too. But in the last month or so, I've told my friends, I'm like, I'm feeling it. Like I'm feeling the heat, and
Yeah.
it's weird because I've never felt the heat before, but it's, and I can imagine these poor little kids. I just look at them, and I just think, gosh, this must be confusing and scary. But they're
Yeah.
little warriors too. They keep a
Yeah.
lot of it in and they play the big game, the big
Yeah.
strong game, but it's got to be affecting them inside.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I mean, and then, and even for them, the parents that are confused, I mean, how,
Yeah.
and then on the kids, I just, that part is sad
It
because
is.
I'm pretty candid. Like we're talking about politics, the news is always negative. It fills us into what's negative. Now, if it was on 24/7 telling us what was right instead of what was wrong,
That'd be great.
because there's so much right going on, right? But what we're waking up to is, I'm not saying all politicians are dirtbags, but I'm going to say that excuse my language, but
Yeah.
the majority of are, because now we're seeing it.
Yeah. Yeah, the proof is in the pudding, right? The proof is in the
Yeah.
pudding.
There's no decisions being made for humanity. It's being made for,
Someone's power, someone greed and power, and for some reason. And yeah, but you're right.
Yeah.
It's not for the collective good. And that's another thing. If you, like you
Yeah.
said earlier, a leader gets the people together and says, hey, there's a thing in the world. We're going to get through this. We're going to unify. They don't divide us apart.
Right.
That's a non-leader.
That's yeah. And that I in my lifetime, I've never seen us be led like this. This is absolutely like tyranny, because they're taking freedoms, right? And if we don't rise up with a voice, even though everyone's on different sides of the table,
Yeah.
we have to speak. This is what we're called to do right now. There's a way to do it in love and truth. Everyone's doing it different ways, but I'm not a follower. I'm not going to be a follower anymore. And I don't trust the leaders. I have to say that, because
Yeah, well, I feel the same way. And I feel like you said too, because I'm a recovering people pleaser, like hardcore, like, I had to do that work, go down that road. And so as a recovering people pleaser who wants everyone to like him, it's hard to have an army on either side of you and you pick up a weapon and you go join an army instead of being in the middle. But we're, like you said, we're being called to take a stand with one of the other armies. And even though it feels scary, it also feels right too. No longer being in the middle ain't going to cut it any longer.
No, people have to choose what side of history they want to be on. We're all called to do it right now.
Yeah.
And
it's such an incredible time.
It's an incredible time, in which can be amazing, because we all come from different backgrounds, different belief systems, all these different things. But this is a time where we can unite together on just our rights and freedoms.
Yeah, like you said, what's best for humanity. We're all connected, and it's not vaxxed or unvaxxed or this or that. It's
Right.
us. Because being all connected means that what happens to one is going to affect another.
That's all.
Yeah.
And we were all created in the image of God, and we're all his children, or his children. So now we're going to be divided. And you're right. I love what you just said. But we have a leader saying vaxxed and unvaxxed.
Yeah, to keep it, it's that age-old saying, united we stand, divided we fall.
Oh,
And, we better all be remembering that. In it, again, it's such an interesting time, because we listen to the narrative that's going on and we think, oh, well, vaxxed and unvaxxed, or this or that, or whatever. But then we listen to our heart, and it's like, no, all in it together, and love and compassion, and just like,
Yes. Yeah.
you're right. It's a tense time, and it's an interesting time.
Yeah, it is. And people are looking for people to rise up. They're looking for voices, right? I was talking earlier about the ordinary doing extraordinary things. It's time that people stand in their truth and get fearless and become bold. Because we're listening to a lot of things that just don't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. Just even, without being political, but common sense talking about health. If you have borders open everywhere and people are coming in from out of the country, this is, a 5-year-old can figure this out. They're coming in from out of the world, and they're not mandated the shot. They're not mandated the jab. They're not mandated a test, but people are losing their jobs.
Yeah.
I was talking to a guy that has a gym here in town the other day, and we were using the example of, we all are in a season, we've all been in a season where our finances have been a mess, right? And I was talking about, oh gosh, when being irresponsible with my money and not getting that organized, that's another part of our life we need to take the lead of, right? So if I said to everybody, hey, right now, I'm going to get my finances in order, so I'm not buying anybody gifts anymore right now. Sorry, I need to get my bills and my own finances in order. I'm not saying, I don't care about you and I'm never going to help you again and I'm never going to buy anything for you again. What I'm saying is I'm going to get my house in order, and when it's stronger in order, I'll be back.
Yeah, I love that story, because it does feel like there are things being caused to happen deliberately to add to the chaos, to add to the sinking ship phenomenon. And it's like or it's like you can go down the list: the national debt, the border crisis, the crisis with health. I mean, how much can you stack on pressure? And no wonder people are feeling it more and more. And it's like, come on, how much are you going to compress the coal? But I also like the fact that you said, hey, when one person speaks up, there are other people that say, I'm really glad you spoke up because I'm feeling that way too, right? Yeah. Because a lot of this fear narrative that's pushed out onto our collective consciousness is, there are people there that think different. There are multiple people there that think the way you do. But when you're constantly bombarded with this fear of suppression, we don't come together and share as much, or we don't speak up. Because I tell you, like, whenever someone speaks up and says something that hasn't before, it's like, I appreciate you from speaking up. And because it helps everyone to realize that, hey, we're not alone. Because one of the things that, not only do they want to divide us in two, but they also want to divide us in ones to keep us siloed from one another, because that's what our power is.
Oh yeah, and that's social distancing and wearing a mask so we don't talk.
Exactly. Yeah, and when even if it's just connecting two people and sharing their experience, that's powerful.
Yeah.
Can you imagine on hundreds of thousands or millions? That's what they're afraid of. They're afraid of us coming together and going, we're done with you. If we all stopped paying attention to them tomorrow, they would go away. They would have no one. They would have no one to do their to amplify their message. Right.
But isn't it interesting? I was listening to you talk, and it's about they, right? When you really think about who is they, right? They are, anybody that wants to divide, it's dark.
Yeah, because it does feel, that's unconscious on my level, using that term, but it's just like someone's messing with the I don't know if you ever saw this commercial. It was a FedEx or DHL back in 80s or maybe 90s, and it was about the dots, right? They'd have the little map of the city tracking these courier deliveries, and dots were all delivering. And the funny thing was, the little employees were messing with the dots, telling them to go here, go there. And the manager said, hey, don't mess with my dots, right? That's kind of what I feel like is we all come in as human beings with a certain mission, and we're going and doing the mission. And if a person that says, I'm a leader, listen to me, he's messing with the dots, right? And he's taking us off of our path momentarily. It won't happen for long, because as we talked about, it can't happen forever, But it's just right now the dots are agitated. Yes, they are. Yeah. And these leaders that are leading us right now, supposedly leaders, right? They think they're leaders, but this is
in coaching, I would call it so catabolic and negative and so victim and so internal conflict. But, it's such a grand scale of just pure evil. When people say, what's for me isn't for you, and you do, don't do, you do as
I'll
I
tell
say,
you what to do. Yeah. But I'll do what I want to do. And that's happening. We see it happening.
Well, it's all over the place. You've got clips. If people dug a little bit deeper, some people aren't even digging.
Some people aren't digging. No.
They're not digging.
Yeah. And that's the thing. And I'll tell you something. You do not have to dig very long or very hard to find a whole bunch of gold truths. That's what's so crazy. It's right. It's like I said earlier, I'm looking around at my friends and I'm like, are you seeing this? Are you buying this? Because it's like right there. And I think it's that's helping people wake up too, because when it's so easy to find, all you got to do is reach out and grab it. But some people don't want to grab it. They want to stay in that state, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah. I was talking to someone I know last week about, I don't tell people to go get vax or get but whatever. People do what they want to do. I mean, but I was talking to someone that said this was their opinion, is that they felt it was the lesser of two evils for themselves. And I had like one or two questions, but they didn't even want to respond to that.
They didn't want to. Yeah, they didn't want to. Yeah. I'm seeing that too, and I've taken that exact stance as well too, Michelle. Just because I don't want to sway anybody, and even family members who have decided, I'm like, hey, you do what's right for you. I'll love you no matter what. You do what's right for you. And I think a lot of it, whether it was early on because I think that, at least on my journey, that the last 2 or 3 months it's getting more bizarre. And now it's like, okay, I may have, I know I would have approached it differently with them had I known now but still along the, there's a chance I might not have. I mean, people are going to do what they're going to do. Yeah. And like you said, if they haven't done that soul or introspection or soul work, then there's really no, then they doesn't have that foundation to wake up or to stand on their own feet. Right.
Yeah. And people are just taking, like, I'll use even Dr. Fauci, like just listening to what he has to say. Like he's like God, you know?
Yeah, because he's presented himself as that. And the thing of it is, the roots of this are, I don't know, you could go back definitely within a person's lifetime, and definitely hundreds of years. So I don't blame people for listening to these quote unquote authority figures. They're not my authority figures. Yeah. But they're some people's authority figures, because we've been conditioned so much.
Right. But that was going back to, for my personal view of like man systems built on what? Who are these people? We're waking up to find out, what did we do? We fell asleep and put what kind of people in charge of everything? I feel the same way. Our school boards, everything. Yeah. That are not.
Well, and that's why we're having this crisis right now, is we've allowed it to happen. We have, when I think about this, we have the government that we deserve. We took our hands off and enjoyed the materialistic life and went to the mall. Meanwhile, our government is planning and scheming on how to ramrod us, I mean,
right, for decades.
And it's really kind of, that's what I say. And I've heard this from other people, and I feel this way too. Mm-hmm. They, again, back to use the word they don't know what's coming for them once the people that they were putting under submission wake up. I don't even want to be around for when that's coming to them.
Right.
Because like I said, when you deliberately try to suppress the expansion on human beings and deceive them, that's a bad game. I don't even know. It's almost like, I don't even know why you play that game, knowing every other time in history, it did not go well for those groups of people.
That's right. And something that just hit me when you were talking about like us just sharing this right now, there's a lot of people out there, coaches or positives, just everyone conscious living. And I don't mean any like negative towards them, that are just won't even discuss it. They're not going near the subject.
Oh, really? You're finding that? Mm-hmm.
I'm finding that, they're just positive and ignoring it, which, and I understand. I don't want to like make that sound like I'm saying that's wrong.
No, of course not.
In my personal belief right now, I think we have to talk about and go to the eye of the storm and not ignore this elephant in the room.
I agree with you. It's funny because, this platform isn't anything political. It's not anything world events. It's personal development and growth.
Yes. Yeah.
And I struggled with that, Michelle. It's funny that you mentioned that some people who were in this space of, the human beings, having them help them have a better experience, are kind of
Right.
going the other direction, backing off. Meanwhile,
Yeah.
I'm seeing a lot of people that were in totally different fields. They're going toward the fire to try to put it out,
Yes.
right? And I'm like, because I struggled with that too. I'm like, Mark, do you really want to do this? And then I would sleep on it. And I'm like, well, you can't not say something. Obviously, if there's a fire raging, you're not going to say, oh, in other news, let's talk about something that I used to talk. It's just not relevant anymore, right? It's not right now. It's not relevant.
Yeah. But you see this, what's happening in the world today is relevant to people who are dealing with it every day.
Yeah.
Like, even if it's not like, some way or another, everyone this is what's happening in the world to everybody.
Yeah, we're affected we're all affected in some way.
We're affected at some level, right? We're all affected. So to ignore it, right? It's a part of your energy. It's a part of your life. You've got not to address it. It's like with my client, how it gets brought up. What do people think? They want to talk about it, or if they don't, they don't. But it's a part of their energy.
Right.
It's a part of that internal conflict. It's a part of this fear. So.
Well, and what I've noticed, just on my own journey is the messages are coming from my intuition, from my gut. Hey, you need to speak up about this. But again, back to that duality, my brain's like, oh, but you don't want to get in, you don't want to cause trouble. You don't want to offend anybody. You don't want to this. But then I reconciled it finally. And I'm like, hey, again, the sides are chosen. It's not a time to be in the middle. It's a time to take a side. Worrying about offending someone, and you can love and compassion and still be in the fight, right? I mean,
that's right. It's how do you want to fight, right? And I think that's been the whole argument, right? Or the reasoning of why we're in this mess, right? Because we were in the middle.
Yeah. We've been trained, we've been trained to be compliant and to not make waves, which is brilliant on the part of our trainers. Well played, but all of a sudden now it's like, okay, again, back to that idea that you can't override the human spirit. I mean, eventually it's going to come back online and be going, yeah, you better wake up. Yeah. And because we are all spiritual warriors.
We're all spiritual warriors. Yeah. And the worst place to be, think about it in life, if this wasn't even happening, I call it double-mindedness, because if you're double-minded, it means you're on this fence and you're stuck on the fence, right? You got 1 foot over here and 1 foot over here. Choose this day and who you'll serve, basically, because I'm telling you, it just in anywhere in your life, it doesn't work. It keeps you never in your significance.
I love that. And I feel that too, because again, being a people pleaser, I think it's the quintessential definition of what you just described. And then you look at your life and you're like, all right, well, it's good, but it's not great, right?
Yes, that's right.
Because I haven't polarized any of these things, right?
Yeah. It's kind of like who owns the fence. You're sitting on top of the fence and it's kind of uncomfortable up there.
Yeah, there's green pastures on both sides and you're like trying to keep it all. That's a good point. Or a horrible pasture on one side and green pasture on the other. I don't know. But you're right. The fence is not the place to be, is it?
Yeah.
Especially not now.
Right.
Well,
it's awesome. Like make your yeses yes and your no's no's.
Yeah. Well, like the other thing, like if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no, right? I mean, right. Go to the extremes.
It's important. And I think that's what's so beautiful about coaching, how that all ties in, is taking the lead of your life instead of being at the effects. And people, 85% or more, well, I would say 85% because it seems like we're getting more people rising up in consciousness. But 85% of people, they live in unconsciousness. They live at the effects of their life. They get up every day and they humdrum it and it works for them. And they're missing out on
that fully awakened experience.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Companies are run that way and they're still profiting, right? But if their culture changed and they were running in full consciousness of an anabolic thinking, forward thinking, solution focus, instead of just the effects of, and then they just roll in their profit. But can you imagine the ripple effect of all your employees, their families, their communities, it would change things.
Yeah, and I guess it makes sense that companies are run like that because they're just extensions of human beings, just an expression of a human being. And if 85% are like that, then the company But the ones that aren't, the ones that are awakened and the ones that are conscious, they
Yeah.
thrive all the time, don't they?
Thriving. They're thriving. Yeah. You learn how to, that's why for me, it's to do hard things well, because life's hard. Things are going to come. My life's hard. There's things that are not, I'm living life like everyone else, but I'm at choice on how I want to do it.
Well, and I think that coaches have whatever, maybe from past life experience or whatever, they have the ability to do the hard things well, because not everybody has the ability to be a coach, to hold that space and to give people the cold, hard truth. Great coaches aren't people pleasers. That's for sure. That's why I'm not a coach. But you have to be a tough person to be a coach. In my experience, not knowing that.
No, and I agree, because I had to do hard things well in here, right? I cry with people, we banter, I call things out. It's my job. I feel I'm in my gifting, I'm in my lane to help people, help their blind spots and see it. And if I was just here, I won't do it. If they're not getting transformation, I won't do it.
I've heard that from other coaches too, that because I'm assuming you have a line of people that will do it, and you're like, hey, I don't have time. Bless you on your journey, but I got to get to this other person that will do it.
Yeah. It's almost like Jesus. I have to bring this up because it's a story. When Jesus was here, he walked, he taught, and he did miracles. So when he was walking, when he was teaching people, forgiving people, and healing people, he passed by some people. They weren't ready.
Yeah.
He didn't teach everybody. He didn't heal everybody. They weren't ready. Now, did he want to? Yeah.
Or could he have? Sure. But they weren't. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Well, Michelle, this has been super awesome. But before we wrap up, and I'll also put the information in the description and anywhere else I post this, tell people how they can get in touch with you if they want to learn more about your coaching.
Oh, you can get a hold of me at unlockyourdestiny.com. Or you can email me at michelleharriscoaching.com or michelle@unlockyourdestiny.com. You can call me, 805-556-5844.
Perfect. And I'll put all that in the description below as well. Thanks for taking time. I love chatting with you. And I just love that you're sharing your experience working on the front lines out there, because it's so important right now, the work that you do.
Thank you. Yeah, and I love it. And I'm proud of you. And I want to encourage you too, because what you're doing, and to keep your voice, because it's what we're called to do right now. Right now, a lot of us are going to step into even more of our purpose to step into. That way. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, the world needs us, and you were created unique too, and you have your gifting and you're amazing. Let's do it again. And we should.
For sure. Yeah. Let's do plan it again. And because sharing this information and knowledge, like you said, this is what we've needed all along. Right.
Yeah.
And, the right thing always comes at the right time and when we're ready. Yeah. But people are eager for this type of information because it's been suppressed for so long or just not talked about.
Right. And it's time to help people. We need to come alongside people. People are so afraid right now. There is so much fear.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the things, because I've always been more in the creator space. I love the interviews. I love the content. I love doing that. And I am an archetype of a creator when I take those personality tests. But because of the need that I see, a couple of months ago, I said, I've dabbled with the idea of offering consulting, mainly, helping creators, like you said, find their purpose and then put it into an online business platform and then go forward. Because I geek out on that kind of stuff. Yeah. And so I started going too, and I'm like, hey, because it's so necessary right now to share this type of information with people that they maybe haven't learned it before, maybe haven't heard of it before.
They haven't heard of it before, and they're just following the decades of watching the news.
Yeah.
Mind control of that one message. And if you turn the news, because we were taught, you grow up, you turn the news on to find out what's happening.
Yeah.
But now we're like, who is the news? Who owns it? Who's paying for it? Who are these people?
And is this benefiting me in any way, shape, or form? I made the mistake. Well, I did it on purpose because I wanted to see what was going down. Like, I haven't watched mainstream news in years, almost a decade maybe. I maybe caught a glimpse here and there, but I saw something on YouTube the other day, and I was appalled at the fear mongering. And it was a 1 or 2 minute clip. And it was, I could see it was so well crafted, geniusly crafted to implant a fear idea in someone's mind. I was blown away because I hadn't seen it in 10 years.
Yeah.
They've upped their game immensely.
Oh, it's incredible right now because they're literally, you have to ask yourself, I've listened recently, I don't watch the news, but I've tuned in a little bit
to check in.
And how they've divided us so much about the vax and the unvax. And now it's like, they're still talking about Trump. And if the Trump people are the people that have the highest COVID now, the highest ones dying from COVID.
They got to grab it.
It's like, oh my gosh, this is the biggest clown show.
It's bizarre, isn't it?
Now it's made the people that get vaxxed or the people that are unvaxxed go, oh my gosh, don't get around me. Don't get around me.
Yeah.
You're causing it all. You're the cause of all this, you're the cause of all this illness.
You know that you've got a poor leader, which is an understatement, or leaders leading you when they're pointing the fingers at other people. Great leaders, like I follow a lot of Navy SEALs, and their whole thing is ownership. When their platoon didn't succeed, whose fault is it? It's their fault.
Yes.
And it's crazy. It's crarazy.
Well, and that's what changes lives. That's what coaching's all about, taking responsibility. I mean, all these things, yes, happen to me or happen to you, right? It doesn't diminish the pain or the grief that we have to walk through, but it's time to take responsibility in what we're going to do with it.
Yeah.
But if we're still pointing a finger, you never get free.
Right. And I think the ultimate responsibility, and like we've talked about, is we need to, or people need to shut those people off and realize, hey, they do not have your best interest at heart by a long shot.
No, because you're talking about people pointing fingers at people that came, or, kind of arrived new on the scene. These people have been for decades running our country, for decades, and they're all connected.
Oh, so sure.
You can't just say, I get it. There's fault on all sides, but we've got to think a little bit deeper. And it blows my mind too, because of how people have to go deeper in their consciousness, right? Like, wow, let me look beyond just this person's, rhetoric.
Right, and their stateliness. So they've got this great background, a great suit, right? Great hairdo.
Right. Yeah. Or somebody's, you can be inflammatory rhetoric, but what goes deep? Where's the plan and agenda? To me, what I'm seeing is what we've got running right now. There's a plan and agenda to take some people's freedoms away, which are ours.
I see it too. And back to looking at the leaders when they're talking, or really when anyone's talking, again, when you're in tune with yourself and your wisdom is saying, hey, good vibe, bad vibe, no longer is it just like, an automatic, this person's an authority figure, I have to listen to them. Now it's hey, they're a human being from the same place I come from. Are they telling me something true? And if they're not, you're like, I'm not listening to you then, moving on. No, I don't care what authority you think you have or whatever.
Yeah.
It's almost leveling the playing field now, where we're starting to really let our intuition tell us good, bad, right, wrong, do, don't, those kind of things.
Yeah. And, going even into history about the Constitution, boy, I'll tell you, I think in the last 18 months, I felt a little bit more smart than I've had before in my past.
I would agree with that. I concur with that. In what sense? Tell us about that.
Well, understanding our country, right? The foundation of it. And basically, wait, these people are not to reside over us, right? And tell us what to do. They work for the people. And somehow we've given up all of that. And we just are like, okay, what does so-and-so have to tell us how to live our life today?
They've made it seem like it's been like this all along, don't they? Yeah. And that back to my statement that I made earlier. They don't know what's coming, because our country, when they don't realize that when our country was founded, the states had 100% of the power, and the federal government had a big fat zero.
Right.
and as much as they might try to make us think that's not the way it is anymore, it's still the way it is. All they do is wave money in front of the state saying, I got the money. But the thing of it is, the money is already ours anyways. It's not their money.
Yeah, they're spending our money. Yeah.
So it's such a bizarre thing. It's like, it's comical. It's like, are you serious? But this whole power flop, or this perceived power flop, seems to have happened. And it's like, no, this is not how it goes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. And there's more of us than them that people don't know.
There is. Yeah. That's another thing we have to remember. Again, the only, because when you think, why would the powers that supposedly are leading us do this? Why would they silo us off and divide us?
Yeah.
Is because they know that we're more powerful than them. And how do you conquer an army? You divide that army up and then
Yeah.
conquer each little one, right? And when people wake up to the fact of that's happening, it's going to be ugly for them. Like they're
It's
going
going
to
to
be,
be so
they're
ugly.
going to rue the day, you know?
They're gonna, it's like that. What is it? Is it the Wizard of Oz?
What
Where
part?
I think it's the Wizard of Oz, where then what's really behind is just a little, somebody on a mega.
Yes, and the illusion of some authority, and it's like, no, it's just a guy back there. Well, that's the thing. The thing of it is that people really don't realize sometimes is the leader or the sports person or the athlete, they came from the same place you came from, and they're going back there, and they're connected. There's no reason that you can't, like you said. That's why I love that idea about significance, because I haven't heard it that way before ever. I think it's going to activate a lot of people that are listening to this.
Yeah.
They don't realize that, hey, everyone has the ability, if they want to be significant.
Yeah, that's right. They do. And it doesn't have anything to do with what we thought, looking for. We have everything we need. Like I look at it as me sitting here right here with just me. I have everything I need. And you have everything you need without anything else. Without, things, money, monetary, we all want those things. I want those things. Yeah, it makes life easy, some things easier, but I don't need them to be me. I want them.
And like you said earlier, that's what activates the magnetism that magnets those things to us.
Yeah, totally. Otherwise, we're repelling it all.
Right. And it's like
we
when
put our
people
trust
get
and
it.
faith in it.
Yeah.
We put our trust and faith in that, and then we're working towards, and our faith isn't all that. We need to stop and be, and there's more power in the faith and the proof, and all that stuff just starts happening.
Yeah, that's the magic elixir that's going to help people get what they truly want. And the ironic thing is, what they're going to realize real quick, what they truly wanted was not the money, was not the thing. They wanted to love themselves and be in total harmony.
Yeah, and when we do the work to learn how to love ourselves, look how much more we go love other people. But if we have all this yuck inside us, and then we're trying to love people kind of superficially, not really, we need to build that relationship. For me, I believe knowing ourselves, dealing with our stuff so we can unload all the negative that we were taught, and all the beliefs, the lies that we picked up. We got to unload those. And for me, it's a relationship with God. And then boom, that relationship just goes right out, the ripple effect of that. But a lot of people just skip and do things as duty instead of it becoming from within.
Yeah, they're going through the motions. Like you said, they're missing that faith part, that critical foundation, and just like going through life.
Yeah, and now look at what's happening in our world, right? So people are going to really be looking for faith, because it's
there's nothing else. Yeah, they want the ultimate life raft now, because when the seas are turbulent, you're gonna look. Yeah, there's lots of people who are throwing them. Suppose what they say are life rafts, but I'm telling you, they want the real thing now. People know.
Right. And they know you're not going to get it. You can get vaxxed or get unvaxxed, but that's not going to solve people's problems, because there's proven numbers that, people are dying either way.
We're starting to see that. And to that point, what you said is, I've heard this and it feels this way. I didn't think this. I got it from someone else at some point in time during this whole craziness, that this is a spiritual war we're in, right? Have you thought of this or heard this? You probably already knew this.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
Because you're a faith person. You're a God person. And I think we're all becoming.
Yes.
If we join one of the two sides, we have to accept that, don't we? Because this is so bizarre. It's like, if you never even read the Bible, or you didn't know anything about God, know something's going on when you join that side. And
I didn't mean to interrupt you. I do that.
Oh, go ahead. That's all I have.
I just wanted to say this. There's a scripture in the Bible that says the road to death is wide. The road to life is narrow, and few find it. So there's also another verse that says, for I know the plans I have you, not to harm you, but to give you hope in a future and prosper you. You will find me when you seek me with your whole heart. When you come to me, I will hear you. So I'm right with you. Sometimes your mic is off. Right now, for a second, your mic's off.
Oh, did it?
You're
But can you
back
hear
now.
me now? Okay,
Yeah,
that's weird.
yeah, it was coming in and out.
Okay.
Anyway, so yeah, I'm with you because I believe totally we are in a good and evil fight, and it's something we can see for the seers, and some people don't see the spiritual fight, the battle going
Aspect
on.
of it, yeah.
Yes, they don't, and so it is clear as day to me. But if as you read the Bible and understand it, there is a sifting that happens, and I think this actually is unfolding. It's in the Word, and that's why I was talking earlier about what side of history, you know.
Yeah, and see, my Bible knowledge is more from, I haven't read the whole Bible. I don't study it. It's more from the manifestation, law of attraction, personal development
Yes.
side. Those quotes you pull out, which is something.
Yeah.
But a friend of mine the other day, she said, I know of the Book of Revelation, but she said, hey, you might want to read that. And I was like, all right. So I did, and it's uncanny because as a person who I've known little things about it, but nothing like it. I was looking at it, and then I look at my own life, and it's like there's so many correlations and commonalities between, I think, all of our individual lives and maybe that.
Yeah.
I mean, do you feel that way too? Do you almost feel?
I do, because I have a really strong faith, but I don't believe in religion.
Okay.
But I believe in the Word, and I have a personal relationship. It's changed my life. God's values. So just living the universal laws, for me, the Creator put the universal laws. So if we're obedient and follow those, I've watched my life tremendously change. Every single thing I teach in my coaching, I can find it in the book.
Okay, a direct link, yeah.
And directly to all of it. It's there. Goals, write it down on the tab. I can take every book, everything we talk about, I can show you scripture.
Wow.
Everything. Even there's a difference between because our mind, it's in there. Think on what is good and noble. It's all there.
Yeah.
And then it says meditate on it, right? Meditate on what is good and noble. Change the muscle, right? The muscle, because our brain's a muscle. Habitually think on that, what is good. Because guess what happens when we do that? This is what we're talking about in coaching. It says take captive of every thought. Take captive of every thought. Because most of our thoughts, if we haven't learned right, we're taking these negative, no, that's not good, pure and noble, what we're thinking to move forward. Take captive of it.
So
it's
awesome.
Powerful. It's so powerful.
There's a lot going on right now, and it's an exciting time. And before I let you go, I do just want to thank you for reminding me and the people that are listening that people need our help too, in whatever way, shape, or form we can help, even if it's something seemingly insignificant. Nothing is too small.
Absolutely. And there's power in when people decide to make a decision to put time in to do personal development growth. It's life-changing. It is life-changing. We go about life, do, and bye. But stop and take a moment and believe for such a time as this, for all the listeners, whoever watches, that it is your time, and to find those people that are going to help you see and help you step into your time.
I'm glad you said that, because that then it does give you the foundation to go out and do your good work in the world, doesn't it?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Michelle, so much. And definitely let's do it again, because I think this is super valuable.
Yeah, I do too. It was awesome. It's so great to see you.
Good to see you too. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.